G'day Tim, I thought it was easier just to do this as a video presentation to go through a issue we've discovered as we're doing the as-built drawings for the building. So the problem that we've got is actually pretty straightforward, is the building, this is the Google view of it obviously, doesn't reflect the plans. So the plans that we've been working off to jam the theatre in there, I think as I flagged a couple of weeks ago, one doesn't make a lot of sense with the other, and this actually shows us exactly what's going on, is that the boundary line and the internal lines as drawn originally, the plans that we've been working off, which we knew weren't correct, have given us a lot more space in that area than actually exists. So the second issue, with it is that the pillars and columns in that space actually run right through where the ramp would be on the show. So I'll go through that. So it's really straightforward. I spoke to Mark Bazette about it. The drawings that we've been provided, that we had been working off, he basically said that it wasn't done off any measurements, and that doesn't reflect anything that's as built. Anyway, it doesn't matter. We've now got an as built drawing that we're working to, and basically it doesn't fit. So, and it's the issue is we can get the theatre in there at its current size, but what we can't get is the ramp in there, and that ramp is actually at the proper gradient to meet all Australian and South Australian standards for barrier-free access. So what's stitching us up is the ramp that's actually coming down the stairs, and that's really what we've got to sort of, that's what we've got to resolve based on now that we actually know what dimensions the building actually is out the back there. It's wouldn't be an issue if it wasn't for the columns and the boundary line, but anyway, there you go. So for consideration in terms of what I'm about to propose, is, as I said, the current layout's just too big for the actual building as built. We're going to propose two solutions. There's one that is my preference to address the issue, so we can get into the building phase of the project and demolition. So my plan is to be in Cooper Pedy next week to brief Thomas and actually get him started next week. And also this will then form the basis for the permit gentleman whose name has just dropped out of my head. Oh, that's embarrassing. Anyway, it doesn't matter. So you can get onto permitting at the same time. This suggestion, as I said before, just keep in mind what we're going to propose. Both of the options keep the theatre keep the audience and screens exactly the same size and the creative the same. So there's no changes there. So option A, actually it should be option 2A, but option A. So when you refer to the drawings, it's to really come up with a different entry into the area. So originally what we'd said is that we weren't going to touch, we were going to seal off the Act 2 space and excavate out there the other outdoor area that's behind the fence outside what would be the front door. We weren't going to touch it. This sort of proposes that we shift the entry into Act 2 from where it was into an adjacent room that we'd build and seal in, excavate it down to the same level at the same time as we're doing the works in Act 2. They would go down a set of steps into this ante-room, including a wheelchair lifter that would take them down, wheelchair lift that would take them down, and then they're at the right level just to enter into Act 2 itself. There's nothing wrong with the idea. The reason that I'm not championing this one, even though my designer thinks it's a better option, is because it creates more work in the base building phase, and I don't think we need it. That's what I said there. We'd have to seal up another space. It's just more construction work at this phase. Now, it also, the other reason that I'm not too keen on this is that if we do decide to develop that space in the future to expand the exhibit, it will eat into it considerably. So at the moment, this is my option, which is 2B. And 2B is that we enter the theatre Act 2 the same way we were before, between Act 1, 3 space. But as you can see on the drawing here, what it does is it takes you into an ante-room that's in the space that we're already sealing and excavating. There is a landing that takes you to the lifter at the top of the screen, and a set of steps that sweep down. It'll look much nicer, take us onto the level which is -1 metre down and into the theatre itself. And I think to me that's a really nice option, and we can sort of play with the way that works as an entry into Act 2 as well, so we can still make it really lovely and dramatic and give it a real sense of arrival, which would be nice. As I said before, the reason this is our preference is that will fit within, I think, our base building scope of works as proposed to date with yourself. So there's nothing there that's really going to be over and above in terms of getting out into that other area and creating more work at this point in the project, because we're all keen to get into it. I can't think of anything else to say, to be honest with you, but the reality is that the solution will make construction easier for the base building works, because that ramp is actually having a lot of experience building ramps. Curved ramps, compound curve ramps are very difficult and can be quite tricky. This will actually take that level of complexity out of the build, including the things like balustrades and whether or not they're going to be glazed and all the things we have to meet to have barrier-free requirements for a public space. So that takes that out of the equation, which is great. So it meets all the barrier-free requirements we need for the attraction. It does limit the amount of wheelchair access you have. What it does is you can still have as many wheelchairs in that space as fit before. It would just take longer to load and unload. But I just don't see that as an issue. I mean, wheelchair lifts are used everywhere. And honestly, I think this is a better solution than what we have. It's not as pretty. I think the ramp going down was a really lovely idea to really get the audience into the mood. But I think actually this is a more practical solution for the space. Okay. I'll give you a call. We'll have a chat about it, and I'd like to put this to bed today so we can keep moving on what we're doing. Thanks, Tim.